Pipe Network presents.
On this episode of Season 4, Let's Talk.
I think my why is to reach out to the Filipinos. Actually, before I started podcasting, I'm into self help books. So I read a lot of self help books, and I always find myself talking to my relatives or my friends, like telling them, "Hey, I read this book, and this book actually said blah blah blah." So I was thinking like maybe my friends are like getting annoyed with me telling them like maybe I should just start podcasting and just share, my journey.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Rajiv Show, and I'm your host Rajiv Doreswamy, and this show aims to help reach out to those who are currently struggling in life and to remind you that life is indeed beautiful when you're inspired to make it your own. All right, folks, my guest today is one of the most lovable guests that I've ever had. And the reason why I say the word lovable is this person sent me donuts. And you know, I have to put that into thing. My guest today is, of course, Muni Muni. And she has her podcast. You got to check it out. So, Muni Muni, how are you doing?
Hey Rajiv, hello. Thanks for having me. I'm good. How are
Awesome.
you?
I'm doing good, staying productive. And let's get down into the meat and bones of this conversation. Could you give my listeners a little bit of background about yourself?
Background of myself. I don't remember much about my childhood, but I grew up with loving parents and siblings, and I remember standing on the coffee table, like imagining it was my stage, singing Les Mis. And my dad is a journalist, so I also grew up, into reading books. I attended a few press conferences, wrote a few articles in the newspaper, and then I wanted to pursue painting. So my parents enrolled us in art class, or maybe it's
Interesting.
just me, but yeah. One thing I'm sure of is that I was adventurous in terms of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, and I had supportive parents. Not 100%, like not 100% but most of the time,
Mm.
they let me decide and they let me learn from my mistakes, and I'm grateful for that. So yeah, I could say that, I was very adventurous. I tried a lot of things
Huh.
and I made a lot of mistakes. Yeah.
Awesome. My next question is connected to your opening thing. Is
Mm-hmm.
that if you and I were high school classmates, who are you in high school? Like, are you the person with the books? Are you the kind of person who's into sports? You said adventurous, or you introverted type who's almost always in the library, reading and this thing, never getting along with
Uh-huh.
people. If you and I were classmates, who would you be?
That is so interesting. It depends in what year were we classmates, but I'm mostly the one with the books because I love reading,
Mm.
and I was actually bullied in my last 2 years in high school. I'm
Oh.
not sure what happened, yeah, or how it started, but I remember talking to my mom about it. I went home from school one day crying, like I was bawling my eyes out
Mm.
because I couldn't take it anymore. And my mom, bless her heart, asked me if I want to go to another school at first. At first, I said, yeah, I did want to go to a school because I
Mm.
badly wanted to leave that school.
Mm.
Just leave them, But the
Mm.
next day, I actually told my mom, you know what? I'll stay. She said, are you sure, sweetie? I said, yes, I'm
Ah.
sure. Yeah. So that day, I confronted those who were bullying me. I talked to them. I asked them, hey, what did I do?
Huh.
What did I do to you that made you hate me this much?
Huh.
And they never really answered my question. That they just responded like, blah blah blah, don't talk to me.
Ah.
So it was a pivotal moment for me because that was the day I realized that they couldn't even answer my question. Maybe they don't even know why they're bullying me. Maybe it's not because of me, you know.
Insecurity,
So yeah,
perhaps.
maybe I don't know. I don't really know. I never got a response from them. But yeah, what I did was I get on with my day and I just dealt with it, you know, thinking that maybe this experience is teaching me something, and it did. I'm not saying that it was a walk in the park. It was more like a walk inside a haunted house. But but yeah, I did learn a lot, and that experience really has made me stronger
Huh.
and more compassionate people to people, more compassionate to people. So I would say that if you knew me in high school, I would be the one with the books who is compassionate to other people that I see that are being bullied, because I know how it feels, you know, firsthand. Also, I just wanted to put it out there, like, if you're listening to Rajiv's show and you're being bullied at school, at work, at home, I'm sorry that you had to go through this. Empathize with you. Sometimes knowing how people treat you is more often than not a reflection of how they feel about themselves and not really about you. So knowing that might help you deal with what you're going through right now. It might help you cancel out the noise, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I love how powerful you went right off the bat. And you mentioned earlier your dad and your mom. I just want to connect the next question, of course, is who is your greatest motivator and why?
Not my parents. No, but I love them. But I am my motivation, because the best kind of motivation is self-motivation.
Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. And connecting, of course, disconnecting from the first two questions, I'd like to ask the next question is, of course, in the present time, is what made you who you are in your level and where you at in terms of job, life, everything, you know?
Right. Well, you know, that's a very good question. What made you who you are? Life really has shaped me to be the person that I am today. My failures, my mistakes, my relationships, and all the lessons I'm learning, they all help mold me into this tiny speck that's in this crazy magnificent world we live in. So yeah, I mean, you know, whatever we go through, we grow through. That's what I read the other day.
Interesting. The next question is, of course, if today was yesterday, what would you keep and let go of?
uh that's a tough question. You know why?
Why?
I just ended my relationship with my partner,
Ah.
and yeah, that's sad. I know. Thank you. But yes, I would want to let go of this heartache
Huh.
just to get it over with, you know, because my default is that I move on too fast. That's my default. And that's one thing I'm learning. I need to be vulnerable to deal with the heartache, to deal with whatever feeling that comes with this experience, and just process it, you know. So I would say I'm keeping the pain for now to help me deal with my emotions, to help me learn from this experience. And I will let go of this voice inside my head that tells me to just shut it down, close everything up, forget it. Because at the end of the day, if we don't resolve our past, it'll keep coming back. It will haunt us for the rest of our lives. So I need to deal with this pain, you know.
It's kind of connected with me. Looking back at my
Yes.
previous episodes, of course, in my life and my experiences, it kind of it is a fair point. You have a good point. As
Mhm.
and wow, you caught me off guard. Yeah. Um.
Yeah, we were just talking about like, past mistakes
Experience.
and the pain that comes with it. So yeah, and it is true, if we don't resolve it, it'll keep coming back. Like it will manifest in different ways. Like you won't even know that, hey, what is this experience, or what is this trigger? Why does it keep coming back?
Mm.
It's because of that past that you have not resolved, or you haven't even dealt with. So it's very important that we deal with it.
The funny thing about that sentence is that for
Mm-hmm.
me, looking back, it very weird. I think in human nature, it's very weird. As in society, especially when we're living in a fast-paced world,
Mm-hmm.
we have this tendency of getting scarred too easy, and of course, I think a lot of people. I don't know if you might agree with me on this, but there are a lot of people who have a hard time recognizing the difference between what hurt them and what to let go of. And I think I have that in terms of my reflection. It's hard to
Right.
rationalize what really hurts the most, and taking that like as a lesson. It's very hard for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you agree with it though. I mean, I do agree that a lot of people also have tough times, tough ways of figuring out how to figure out themselves. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have different ways on how we cope on different levels of what pain we
uh,
feel. And I think it's not about the gravity of the experience or the pain that we are feeling. Like what matters most, it's a sort of like identifying, okay, well, I gotta get through this anyway. So
hmm.
it's a matter of choosing what pain are you willing to tolerate for you to be able to grow, for you to be able to learn those mistakes.
The irony though in that is that I guess for me,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of my style of how I get how I understand learning lessons is of course in terms of reflecting. I walk a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in some of my things,
Right.
and that's where I get the learning. I get to reflect. I mean, I don't know. Everybody has weird ways of finding out, saying what's broken, like, and very interesting. I mean, very interesting. But the thing that always bothers me sometimes is I think the toughest challenge in note. I think even in life, I guess, is that when you're rationalizing an ideology, especially if it's a life lesson, sometimes the tendency is the ego attacks before the logic. I don't know if I got the
Right.
message through.
Right.
You know,
Uh-huh. I
when
understand. Yeah.
uh, taking a look back, of course, when we were young and stuff like that, we have the when we fight with someone, uh, when we were young, we have siblings, and then of course the eldest fights, and then we have the
Mm-hmm.
fight, and then in the truth of the matter is the person who started the fight will not admit it. You mentioned that also with your bullies, in the thing
Mm-hmm.
earlier question, is that but my main logic there is that when we're kids, especially when we start the argument or the quarrel, sometimes our ego gets the best of it, and then after a few days, sometimes it takes even years to apologize for starting the quarrel and stuff like that. I guess when you get older, it gets much more easier to alleviate that. For some, I guess it still takes time to practice it, I guess.
Yeah, it does. And it's hard. Like I don't personally don't hold grudges. Like
Mm.
if it's done and we talked about it, I mean, I don't really find myself looking for sorry. Like I don't need to hear your sorry for me to be able to be at peace with what happened.
Mm.
It's really a matter of forgiving that person, even if they don't really feel that they're sorry for whatever they did,
Mm.
because at the end of the day, it is you who is dealing with your emotions, not really, and it's you who is being affected with that emotion. So
Mm.
will you let yourself be affected with this fight that you had with your brother or with your ex or with your friend, you know, or are you willing to just let it go and just, you know, work out the relationship? So it's really a matter of dealing with it and accepting, you know, should you just let it go? I know it's easier said than done,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
It's
True.
so easy to say, but and you know, I'm not perfect. Like, of course, like I fight with um other people, but what
Mm.
I'm saying is that would you just let it go? I mean, you know, if you're having a bad day, or if you're having a bad 5 minutes, would you let it be a bad day?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good question for people who are tuning in. You know, it's it's a good, very, very, very powerful question to ask yourself. You know, would you let it go? And
Yeah.
in the beginning, absolutely, the answer is a definite 100% yes. I'm sure nobody will say no, right? Saying it's like, I won't forgive this guy, and blah blah blah, and all that stuff, especially cursing and all that stuff. And then some point in time, say, okay, okay, I understood. But yeah, I mean, wow, we deviated from the questions that I normally ask. But yeah, I love the power. I love the power of that conversation. It, it's pretty cool how you rationalize thing, and I really respect you for that. That's a really an interesting. It's an opening, and it's an opening insight to itself. For a person to
Mhm.
understand themselves, and I think that's one of our main challenges as human beings, is to open up that box and to figure out what we can get out of it, and then where we can take it to the next level, or where we can improve, or where we cannot improve. Sometimes, yeah, as you mentioned, is our imperfections
Mhm.
are our main challenges.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah.
And also like what I was when I was just talking to the other guys just a few days ago
Hmm.
about my podcast is that we're not really like we grew up not really learning about emotional intelligence, you know,
Hmm.
and we don't have our all of our parents, like I'm not saying they're bad, but not all of our parents have this, you know, emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
So where are we going to, you know, learn that but from experience, but from other people? And that's
Hmm.
why there's a Rajiv show, so they can learn from you, you know.
Yeah, I like how that worked out. I like how you connected that. But
Right.
yeah, true. I absolutely agree. I mean, especially families who have that problem with, yeah, divorcee, and broken families. That's a main challenge, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So some of
True.
them, and the generation that comes after that, it's more of a challenge, and how they picture the world. Is
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. And I think I love to open this conversation. I mean, um, I mentioned divorcee and saying we. It's a bit. It's a tragedy coming from a person who comes from a family, a broken family. I'll admit is that it's a main
Mm-hmm.
challenge. But as you grow old, sometimes experiences you cannot really grasp them in school, because even school, when they teach you the logical sense of everything, it doesn't really make sense. And that's one thing I empathize, with schools, and for the people who are who people like you guys who are doing podcasts about self development. That's one amazing task in itself, because one is, there's no such thing as a textbook of the Muni Muni books, uh,
True.
life lesson experience quota. And the one more challenge is like everybody is different, and the people from the
Mm-hmm.
mountains, have a different way of breathing in the air from those people who are in the cities who are polluted, and they have a different perspective. They've seen trash, but people up in the mountain, they look at it as an opportunity to sing. And the reason why I say that is because, of course, I'm from the La Trinidad area, where of course we're surrounded by mountains, and we are a part of the Igorot tribe, and our
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint in life is much more different than those who are in the central area, who are facing the heat and trying to make ends meet. And that's thing interesting. And
Yeah,
wow.
that is so true.
Mm,
Like the other day, one of my listeners were asking me. So she sent me a message, and she was asking me like, okay, well, now could you answer this? Like, how can I be happy?
mm,
That's what she asked me, and it's not. I told her it's not black and white. Like what's happiness for you may not be happiness for me.
mm,
It's the same as success. What's successful for you, your definition of success is not my definition of success. So it's
yeah,
the same thing with happiness. But the thing is, as long as we don't understand that how to live a meaningful and purposeful life,
mm,
and that it comes from that happiness is mainly just a product of your mindfulness, your
mm,
appreciation, being in the present moment, really.
mm.
As long as we
In the
don't
moment.
understand that,
Yeah.
yeah, we will keep filling this void with temporary pleasures in life. So
Right.
yeah, I just wanted to add that it's not the same. We all have different experience in life, and what's happiness for you is not happiness for me. So yeah, that is so true. I 100% agree with what you said, that it's not black and white. We are not the same person.
Mm, mm. It's true. Moving on to the next question, of course, is that what are
Mhm.
your thoughts? This is a split question, of course. The first question is, of course, what are your thoughts for your future, and what are your
Mhm.
thoughts for the future? The reason why I'm asking about the future is because we're living in different times now. We're not in Kansas anymore,
Yeah.
and um, if I were to put this in a statement, just recently, my mom had a Google thing class, and online classes, and this is not Kansas
Mhm.
anymore. I mean, I'm it's a different feel prior to, of course,
Yeah,
sitting in a
that's so
classroom
true.
learning. And what are your thoughts for the future? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Like, is it helpful? Is it not helpful? What are your thoughts? But before you answer the future, answer your thoughts for your future, so that it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting insight.
I do have like a 5 year or 10 year plan for myself,
Mm,
but I take it with a grain of salt, like I'm flexy. But because like if I tend to over conceptualize and that think that this has to happen or else I won't be happy. So it kind of limits, what I how I view my future. But I was thinking like the other day, I really wanted to live a simple life, like an island life, just live a simple life and basically just being content. That's my thoughts for my future. Being content with my life.
wow.
Although that's really hard. Like
Yeah.
how?
Simplicity
Like,
is not easy to
how?
attain.
It's not, because it takes a lifetime really to change your values and your perspectives.
Mm,
And yeah, but I mean, at least be at peace with yourself and just live a simple life. I'm not really your kind of city girl. I don't even go to the mall.
that's
Like
interesting.
you know what, before the pandemic,
Huh.
I'm one of those people who literally like maybe made 0 or 1% changes in their lifestyle, because I don't really go out a lot. Like maybe during weekends, but that's it. I
Uh,
work from home, so nothing really changed. And I'm also a germaphobe, so I had like a
oh.
stock of alcohol in my room, in my place. So there not really not a lot of changes.
Basically,
So
you're in
yeah, I'm
heaven.
seeing.
In short, you're in
Yeah,
heaven.
it's the same thing. Nothing
Yeah.
changed. Like I just don't see my friends during weekends, and that's it. But and it's crazy, you know. We're living in a crazy time, but I am hopeful for my future. I can say that.
Interesting.
About the future, yeah. My thoughts about the future is that um it's still positive, but not really toxic positivity, like you're
Yeah.
denying or you're invalidating what's happening right now.
Mm.
But maybe we have all adjusted to what's been happening. It's funny because I was just talking to my ex. Oh my goodness. I was just talking to my ex about okay, what are your 3 wishes? So that's what we were talking about.
Mm.
And I was thinking like, okay, so I can't really like use okay, I'll have another wish. No, not like that. But so my first wish was world peace, of course. Very Miss Universe answer.
Very
My
fanatic.
my yeah, I know, with the matching, you know, wave your hands like that.
I like how you went
And
Jerry
then
Springer on the thing. Like extra wish, no.
I know, right? And
Yeah.
then my second wish was for my loved ones. I was thinking, should I wish for money? But you know, because most of the time when you ask people that, they would tell you like, I want to be a millionaire, you know,
Mm.
I want to have all the money in the world.
Mm.
But I didn't wish that because money is an external force. It's paper.
Yeah.
It goes away. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like guys, drink whenever I say at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so back to the thought. Yeah, so I was thinking, no, I don't want to wish money to my loved ones
Uh,
because it goes away like it's paper. So what happens when they lose all their money? They go
uh,
back to
Square
their,
one.
square one, exactly. And whatever issues they were dealing with,
Mm.
it will go back. It will manifest again. So instead, my wish was actually inner peace, and for them to be able to accept themselves and be aware of themselves. So in a way, that's my answer for your question. What are my thoughts for the future is that I am hopeful that during this pandemic we had this time to
Yeah.
focus on our mental health,
Mm.
and that in the future we will be more resilient, we will be more accepting of ourselves and to other people, and we will be more aware of how we react to the negative emotions, negativity,
Mm.
outside forces.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess
Wow.
that's my answer.
Powerful stuff. Powerful, powerful stuff.
Thank you.
And of course, I want to add this.
Mhm.
Do you have a particular coach, philosophy? From it can be an actor, actress, anyone that you wake up to.
A philosophy like a mantra, you know.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I always tell my sister is
Mm.
that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. Because you have to care about something. But because of that indifference that we see in other people, we are so afraid to be vulnerable. We are so afraid to take off this armor and
Mm.
just stand there and be seen for who we are. We are so afraid to do that, even to those people that we feel are deserving to see that. And
Mm.
what we don't realize is that I read this from somewhere. Your body will cry the tears your eyes refuse to shed.
Wow.
It's this idea that if you
Whew.
don't have a safe space to be
Yeah.
vulnerable, and if you never have someone to talk about how you feel, that's stress. It'll show up in places you're not expecting. And that's why I wanted to create this safe space where I post tough questions for self reflection on social media,
Mm,
and people in the community can answer. That's why, if or when my friend is having a bad day,
mm,
I ask them, I talk to them, I ask them, do you want to talk about it?
mm.
Because sometimes the less we talk about how we feel, the more control it has over our thoughts, our lives. One thing that I always say is that we cannot go it alone. Like, no man is an island. You know, believe me, I tried to go it alone. It did not end well.
Same here.
So,
Same
yeah,
here.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my philosophy in life. Like the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference.
Wow. It's funny when you when you said that that quotation from that book. I felt it. I mean, the words were so powerful. I mean, it just whiplashed me.
It
Uh,
does, yeah. No.
and really interesting. You really you have some powerful stuff. I mean, you have a lot of powerful stuff that makes a person think and challenges the thinking, and that's actually good. That we need thinkers nowadays. With the social media, the clanging and banging, and then
I
the
know.
uh,
With
but
all the
and
noise, yeah.
the external forces that's generating um, uh, a lot of ideological things, and a lot of reactions
Mhm.
without the knowledge of consequences is really, yeah, it's really a challenge. And especially with the external forces, we have the, the entire internal concept, which is also a challenge in itself. I mean, it's hard to it's hard to first, it's hard to go past point A, which is the external,
Mhm.
and getting into point B, internals. That's like going down a different level. um, and I think people are looking
Yeah.
at life in a different way, and that's how I see it. I mean, what justifies society is that it's like the trend thing. I think, yeah, trend has been happening for almost years and decades already, and
Mhm.
it's like the fish follows the crowd, and it's rare to see one fish swim away from the crowd, create
Right,
his own,
right,
and
right.
and yeah, and I do
Yeah.
agree with the fact that some of us isolate ourselves, not just for the need of social being socially accepted. I mean, coming from a person who still has a tough time blending in with society, it's always been a challenge. And I wanted to emphasize this actually. In order for me to grow, is that when I was in college, um, I've mentioned this in our previous conversation, is that I've always had a tough time uh, connecting with people. Is one is it's not because I don't like people. I love people. The fact
Mhm.
that we're having this conversation is that I love
Right.
talking to people. I love to talk. I love to share. I love to learn. And the
Boy, you
best
do.
books aside from the tangible books that we have is, of course, the book of life. And everybody has a different chapter. And some are uh, in chapter 99, and some of them are stuck in chapter 1. And I love
Mhm.
to learn. For me, um, it, I like I like I said, I like an intellectual stimulation. And
Mhm.
I always look to learn about things that I've never thought of before. And I think that's where my curiosity sing was create got me into music and arts. And of course, I'm some people who don't know me well is that I love history. I remember during my 12th grade, 12th standard, I think I memorized the history. Now I'm not really good with the numbers, but
Oh wow.
I
Mm-hmm.
memorized the names of the years and the eras where India from the Harappan civilization to the modern
Mm-hmm.
contemporary, and it is beautiful. And that's one thing I like at intellectual stimulation. If so, and it's rare to have that, you know, it's rare to connect with
Agree.
someone, you know. Before we get into, of course, my favorite topic, we're gonna have a short break, and folks who are listening will be back.
Looking for a podcast on TV and movie discussions? Try Review. Catch new episodes every Saturday, 6 p.m. on your favorite podcast streaming platform. I'm your boy Wesley. Don't forget to smile today, and see you in the next review.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Rajiv Show, and of course, my guest, the lovable Muni Muni.
Hey.
We had an amazing conversation about very deep philosophical stuff. I gotta say, you gotta go check out the podcast. I know the plugging of podcast is gonna be in the end of this episode, but I gotta encourage you guys to listen to her podcast because she tackles about a lot of stuff like saying interesting questions that you never thought of asking yourself in isolation, especially at times like this. So now let's get into the segment. We're gonna jump from certain topics here. First of all, of course, we are both podcasters, as you guys know.
Mhm.
Um, how does it feel to be a podcaster? I gotta ask.
How does it feel to be a podcaster? Is that a trick question?
I mean, it's an honest question because it's fun for
No.
me. For me, it's
Yeah.
fun, but for you, I
Mhm.
gotta ask because I'm sure a lot of people who do podcasts, they do it for the sake of they don't have that internal. See how we connected it back to the previous, they don't have that internal
Right.
reasoning of doing what they do. They just do it like
Yeah.
machines. So I just out of curious, like, yeah, I forgot the question, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, how does it feel to be a podcaster? I don't know. The only difference now before my pre-podcasting life is that I don't really go. I'm not really on social media that much, but now like 99% of the time I'm on social media because I'm talking to my listeners, talking about like what topics do they want to, for me to cover the next episode, or really reaching out to people, or people who are reaching out to me, because I'm also a personal development coach. But
Mm,
what I do now is I do pro bono, especially now because of I also my clients right now are kids that are doing online classes because it's very difficult right now,
mm,
and they really can't open up to their parents because their parents might get stressed out,
mm,
and they really can't open up to their friends because they have this fear of getting judged, like, why can't you keep up? I can't keep up. Why can't you? So they have this fear of getting judged, that they're missing out or they're being left behind. So it's really more of an open conversation, and it's really more of being a facilitator or guiding them to reach whatever goals they have. So it has changed my life for the better, in terms of reaching out to other people. And but at the same time, it's also a heartache because I've talked to my other listeners, and like, some of them share what they're going through right now,
mm,
which is very painful. Like, it's heartbreaking to know that they're going through this tough time,
mm.
and the best you could do is to listen to them, because most of the time, really, when they talk to their friends, what they always say is that my friends don't really listen. Like, what they do is give me advice when I only need a listening
They
ear.
don't practice
I
what they
just
preach, kind of concept.
No, like they just wanted to be heard. But what their friends do when they share their pain is that they get judged. Like so something like that. Or they give out advices when they're not really looking for advice. They're just looking for someone to listen to them. So that's also my way of reaching out to people in podcasting. Also, I think my why is to reach out to the Filipinos. Actually, before I started podcasting,
Mm.
I'm into self-help books. So I read a lot of self-help books, and I always find myself talking to my relatives or my friends, like telling them, "Hey, I read this book, and this book actually said blah blah blah." So I was thinking like maybe my friends are like getting annoyed with me telling them like maybe I should just start podcasting and just share my journey. I'm also, I can't say like a survivor, but I had suicidal thoughts.
Oh my.
I was diagnosed with bipolar too, and it was I gone through like dark times, and that's one thing that I realize is that even if you listen to a million self-help books, even if you read a million self-help books, if you're not ready to take responsibility for your own life, nothing will happen to you. So yeah, it took a while. Like it was in my darkest times that I realized that I need to just get this thing over with and deal with it, and there came a time that I was ready to move on, I was ready to start my life over. Then I was looking for, so where do I begin? Like how can I start?
Oh,
you know
that's the toughest
so
question, in life.
yeah, I know, you're right, because like if you've been spending a lot most of your time, or like months or years sitting in the corner, like where do you go from there? When you're ready to move on, where do you go from there? So mainly this podcast, I wanted for it to be an avenue or a platform for those people who are ready to take responsibility for their life, for the changes that they want to make in their life. So that's why I asked those tough questions, and I wanted to share, my journey and what I learned during my journey and what I'm still learning. Yeah, that's how my podcasting is.
Wow.
My podcasting world is right now.
Wow, it's very powerful. It took a different turn. you
You know what? I'm not afraid to be vulnerable because it's very important to be seen and to open up, especially now because there's a lot of bottled up emotions, because there's this society that we live in
tends to put a
is
makeup on everything, I guess.
I
Yeah.
know, and everything, yes. So I mean, just just show up
Yeah.
and just be honest with yourself.
Coming from podcast, from the conversation about podcast, I want to transition into art. You mentioned earlier that art is you do art. So with arts, do you use it as a form of self expression? And if you do art, do you have a particular theme when you create your piece?
Yeah, I do art as in a way that it's a release for me, or if I find myself demotivated or uninspired, I always go back to doing the things I love. Because I mean, I'm working, like I work from home, and of course, like it's not really, it's work. So whenever I feel like stressed or motivated or uninspired, what I do is I just open up my, watercolor
Mm.
stuff and just, do whatever I want. And it really helps a lot, because that is a part of my intrinsic motivation. So whenever I do that, it makes me happy, and
Mm.
then it satisfies my intrinsic motivation, thus helping me move on and do the tasks that I need to do for my work. So yeah, it's been an avenue for me to help me do the things that I need to do.
Interesting. And the second question is: do you have a particular team? Do you follow movements like art movements? Do you do pointillism, abstract? Of course, I'm sure it's gonna be tough if I were to ask you that you do Renaissance, chapel-like painting on the
No,
ceilings. Yeah,
I
but
wish.
but do you do the earlier contemporary movements like cubism, pointillism, abstract expressionism, the Jackson Pollock stuff? Do you follow
Right,
those
right.
particular themes in terms of expression as you
Um,
lay the brush and the canvas or the paper or
yeah. Well, my favorite artist is Edward Munch. So most of my freehand paintings are um, really inspired from his work. But what I usually do is, especially now during the pandemic, I just paint like the beach because it helps me. Like, because I miss the beach so much because I'm a water baby. So
uh,
I like painting the beach, and yeah, right now that's what I do. Just I paint whatever I miss. So if I miss eating donuts, I paint donuts.
you had to go there. But, this is interesting. Um, what got you started to painting? Is it someone who inspired you to get into painting, or it was just a thing in school that said, or it was just a part of the curriculum in school that school that said that, okay, kids, you need to paint an apple or paint whatever pencil, whatever it is, draw a pencil or stuff.
Huh, interesting. I don't really like it when people tell me what to do. Even my teachers, like, I do it, but I would
Yeah.
hate you. But no, I'm not sure how it started really. It just that I told my mom, I think I saw a painting when we were out. And then I told her that, hey, I wanted to try out painting. So that's why she enrolled me in art class.
Hmm.
And that's where I started, I started painting. But yeah,
Painting is like, what's your medium? Do you do sketches as well, or do you just do painting on canvas like the watercolor, acrylics? What's your what are your art? Yeah, I was gonna
yeah,
go with
I also,
art style. Yeah, what are your
mhm.
materials and what's the stuff? What's the stuff that you use?
I also do sketches. I remember going up the roof of the house, just
Hmm.
me, my sketch pad, and my sketch pen,
Oh, that's
pencil,
heaven.
and just yeah, that is so true. I so agree, and it was so peaceful. And I just drew whatever I was seeing on the horizon. So I think yeah, I also sketch. I mostly do watercolor paintings. I
Mm.
used to paint the walls of the house, but um, I live in an apartment, so I can't paint the walls.
Ah, okay.
So yeah.
I thought you were gonna go with the Renaissance,
No, I
Patron,
wish.
what do you want me to paint this corner with? Some Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, like the reaching out,
Yeah.
the angels. Oh my goodness.
How many
Yeah.
square meters, we can It's funny. It's funny. You just gave me this as a creative person. You just gave me. I was just when you mentioned, you go up to the roof and sing. There was this image. It was kind of an anime image. I don't know if you could picture
Mhm.
this with me. So the image that's in my head is, of course, an anime young teenage kid who's sitting on top of the roof
Uh-huh.
and, of course, painting whatever his scenery. And then what ruins that moment is, of course, the mother. Come down for dinner.
Time for dinner.
Yeah. So kind of,
You
yeah.
go down, young lady.
Yeah, it's just kind of
Oh
it's
my
weird.
goodness.
It's one thing, one creative thing about conversations. You get to paint. It's a habit of mine. Sometimes it's a tendency, especially when you have a very simple conversation and then it leads to saying that's how my mind works. Is as a creative person, yeah, both oral
That's
and
nice.
visual. Uh, and
Yeah, guys, I saw Rajiv's painting. It was crazy good. You should show your paintings to the world.
my way of expressing my art, it's more of a combination, basically.
Mhm.
Of course, just like you, I also studied in art, but my field was this was actually the help of my father. And
Mm.
I mentioned this also in my earlier the last years, where I studied animation for 2 years.
Oh,
And the
nice.
reason
Mhm.
behind that was earlier on, before I failed my high school, I used to do comics. I was fascinated with comics. We could
Mhm.
we could open up another season where I could just talk about the Batman, Superman, Justice League. I'm always ready for a conversation like that. And I'm an obsessed. I mean, I don't really have that. I'm not really that fanboy who goes after the movies. I mean, I'm in it for the art of the
Right.
creative thing, because creating comics is not that easy, and especially the creative periods and the genres. So my dad saw this potential in me where I draw these comics, and when it was both two of us at home, he said, "Why won't I enroll
Mhm.
you in animation? So that you can take your drawings and ideas and then transcribe it into digital format." And out of curiosity, I bought into the thing, and it was fun. Actually, it was an interesting feeling. It was just that the most of the classes that most of the classes that we had was not really as fun as it was, because in the span of 2 years, most of the stuff that we learned was, of course, in the University of YouTube, because YouTube had more information than the course. It was
Oh.
it's a weird deal. 2 years,
Wow.
and I remember in India, my mode of transport. I'm not really an athletic type of person, and
Mhm.
but during that time, I used to cycle a lot, just to get just to this thing. So that's why I mentioned earlier I used to do walking, because in India it was either I cycle or I walk. It doesn't matter where I go to, areas like areas far far from home. And there were days that I remember traveling to college, and I used to travel in a cycle. So try to imagine me competing with huge buses. I'm sure you've seen those images
Oh,
in Facebook
wow.
where you get to see the
Right.
overfull buses where people are already falling off of the bus,
Yeah.
and the bus. So imagine me competing with that side by side, and almost highway, and beating the traffic. I got dented a few times. There were near death experience, but
Oh dear.
I missed the challenge.
The
And
thrill.
yeah, I mean, believe me, the first time we went to the college, it was really fun. I mean, I had an experience because the moment we were traveling, I've had in my head, I've already mapped up. Like I said, I'm a visual guy. I've already mapped up what road to take and how to take it when we were heading towards the college, because it was a art college and it was a small piece of that thing. So as we were traveling in the car, I mapped it out like Google Maps, where okay, I take this road, I
Mhm.
take a right here, I take a left there, I climb up a hill, and then of course I slide down the hill, take a turn, and then compete, and then yeah, and I kind of
How was
memorized
it
it.
the first time that you did it? Were
First
you
time I did it,
screaming?
for me, uh, the cycle that I had at that time was not geared. But
Mm.
had I known, at that time I never knew the mechanics of geared cycles. So I was only in one particular level when I was cycling.
Mhm.
So I remember when I got out of the cycle, my legs were shaking, and it felt like I impregnated something because it was really shaking. Like, I mean, I
Oh
could
my
I
goodness.
couldn't take, like, I remember the first time I traveled, parked the cycle, locked the cycle, and all that stuff, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, I was just shaking. First four steps or three steps, I was literally like saying I did leg day or something. I did squats
Right.
and thing, and
Leg
it
day.
kind of it became subconscious to me in the end of the thing. And there were times that I used to there were times that I used to travel to college during the when a rainy season, and there were times that sometimes we have a communication problem in school. Like, we ask our professor. It's funny. We asked our professor, like, do we have class today? And he says, don't message me here. Come to school and ask. And it's so funny that most of
Mm.
the times that tends to happen. We get to class, the moment I get to the college, especially when I go into class. Of course, there's a lady who's securing that portion for us. Of course, I imagine me sweating from head to toe. It was really saying, and then I'm going there panting. Like, imagine I just cycled an
Oh
entire
wow.
marathon, and then I just go there, and then the person just sitting there, chilled, like very chill,
Right.
and then saying, no class today.
No class today.
So imagine that. Imagine that. And but
Oh
I
my
love the place. I
goodness.
love traveling to the place because the college that
Mm-hmm.
I studied was an art college. It was top notch sing art college. And the when you enter, it's actually a it's a second level where there's a gate that gets you into the college. And of course, before the college there's
Mm-hmm.
an art gallery which has phenomenal Indian artworks. If my listeners are tuning in, you should check out Chitrakala Parikshat. That's the name of the saying the art college and the museum. It's a phenomenal place to be, and I kind of miss the ventures. There were a lot of stories, a lot of stories I missed. Um, there were also times that when we were heading back, it,
Mm-hmm.
me and my classmate, we used to cross a train track. We found this
Oh
small.
wow, really?
Yeah, we were. I was an adventurous kind of person, as you mentioned the word adventurous already countless times.
Mm-hmm.
I was also an adventure person, and something that I really love is finding new shortcuts that could help me, shorten the distance from thing, because the travel is much longer. And
Right.
me and my friend, we used to go out, and we used to have food and stuff, like we have street food and stuff like that. And there's this small pathway where we take the cycle, is me, him, we're just joking around, and then after that we're carrying the cycle through a path, a small path where only people who can walk can only make there. It's like a path for only people who walk. And I remember that was really intense. But luckily, we never really got hit by any of the trains, because the trains never showed up at that time. We were perfectly timed, and yeah, it was
Did it
amazing.
cut off your travel time? Did it cut off your travel time?
Uh, at that time, we were traveling home, so we were much more loose traveling home than it was traveling towards.
Right, right.
Um, and as mentioned earlier, I used to go drenched. Like, there were times where unexpected rain. It was weird. This was weird experience. Is that I'm a bit paranoid when it comes to traveling in a cycle during that time, because every time I notice this, when I'm not really a fashionable guy. Whatever I have
Mm-hmm.
in the closet, okay, that bada boom, and then go off. And
Finish, yeah.
there were many a times where I wear black pants, and it's strange enough. In that particular, there was never a single day that if I never wore black pants, or black jeans or that time, I won't get drenched. It was every time
Oh
I
wow.
wore it. Yeah, it was weird. I used to go home.
Really?
Yeah, drenched. It's funny.
And yet you still wore black pants
Yeah, and
after
the
all
raincoat.
that.
Yeah, raincoat and umbrella doesn't really help the journey. It was, because you're
Mhm.
traveling in high speed and then you're wearing a hood. 30 seconds prior to
Right.
the time that you're already speeding, the hood already the wind already knocked the hood out of your head. So it was kind of, yeah. And uh, imagine that there were certain days that I used to go travel to school drenched, and then teacher the guardian will say that teacher is not around, and I often ask myself, what the hell am I doing with my life? But those experiences is the funny experiences that I miss in India,
Wow.
especially in art. And it was a it's fun. I mean, the challenge of animation is another conversation that I'd love to share. I mean, I had a portion of it in my thing, season 2, last year's. So yeah, I mean, that's an amazing. That was the longest explanation of course,
Thank you so
my art.
thank you so much for sharing your art school experience.
Oh
That
yeah,
was crazy. It was crazy. I can't imagine getting drenched and
yeah. I
and
mean,
and knowing that the class is suspended. It's crazy.
yeah. I swear it. Uh, I love this thing, working traveling. Um, and there were also a lot of negative stuff that happened to me. There were times that I got hit. I got dinged a couple of times. There was an
Mhm.
incident where I was heading home. I was listening to
Mhm.
music, but my music was soft enough that I could hear passing by. I was crossing this passing by. It's an additional portion that I wanted to share where I was traveling and the road was empty. And as I crossed, my music wasn't that loud. A bike dinged my cycle, and my cycle literally
Oh
broke into
wow.
half. Uh, and the strange enough, I survived that thing. I didn't get I didn't get the thing, but my cycle got dinged to the point that it was, I think, for a couple of days prior, after that incident, I was cycling a cycle that was heading towards the left side even when I'm heading straight. So basically my focus is straight, and then my front end is like saying, it's like a snapped uh, pizza, I guess, because pizza you can fold it back. You snap it
Yeah.
midway, something like that. Imagine that. So that was an scary experience, and the person didn't apologize. The person just drove off.
Aw. Oh
Uh,
no.
but I was
That's
lucky.
sad.
I was lucky. I
Yeah, you were. It's crazy. Oh my goodness.
Every time I check my cycle, is always my brakes, because it was rubberized, and the weather and stuff like that, and a lot of the incident. But that cycle really served me well. Uh, ever
I
since, I
bet.
never really. I'm still uncomfortable with the geared stuff. I mean, I'm the old school.
Right.
One level. I don't care how high the mountain is, but I still. And that's one thing about life.
I never really understood the gears.
Yeah. It is particular levers where the paddling, in my experience, how I interpreted it is that there's a science to it. So as you switch the gears, the paddling
Mm-hmm.
portion becomes much more easier, and the in order for you to use the pad, especially when you're traveling, since you're adventurous, when you're traveling, when you're going uphill, on a regular similar straight level cycle, you have to exert effort in order to push yourself as you ascend, as you ascend up a
Yeah,
hill
yeah.
or a mountain. But in a gear, when you
Uh-huh.
put it in a particular level, uh, the the chains will make it much easier. So the more you pedal faster, the more you speed, the more it'll be much more easier than struggling getting your leg up and so it
Oh,
becomes much more easier. And
yeah.
then of course, when you want to put it in the normal, straight thing, and then of course when you want the back. So that's how I interpreted it. It's really complicated thing for me to explain. but that's the gist of it. That's the gist of the gears, but it's fun. It's fun. It's fun way to experiment and learn. So but the adventures that you can, one thing I like to encourage people is always figure out some way to sing expand your experience thing, because the more you write things in your life and you're in quarantine, you're missing out a lot. It's sad, yeah, it's sad you have all these regulations, but there are a lot of things that you can use, especially discovering places. That's one thing I encourage people who are tuning into the episodes, these episodes that I encourage you guys to sing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. There are a lot of things that we can do right now. I mean, yeah, we are quarantined, like, and there are limited places that we can go to, but we can start, cleaning the
Figuring out,
house.
yeah.
No,
Figure it
cleaning out the
yeah.
closet. No,
Uh,
really.
Awesome.
Or maybe if you want to start your own podcast, like,
So
go ahead.
not just that, go I want to add on to her to Muni's thing, is that get adventurous and start blogging, try everything, because to some people, of course, a lot of people here who are tuning in probably are not the type who like to talk audio wise, or for me,
Mhm.
sometimes I'm still learning to get myself in front of a camera, so I did podcasting, but I'm still learning to get my I'm still practicing, how to be in front of a camera. Although it's challenging,
Mhm.
it's something worth trying, if that's not your bag, blog away, write. A lot of writers nowadays, I've spoken to a lot of writers who encourage writing as a medium. It's basically like we mentioned, art. You have a lot of stuff that you
Mhm.
can sing. In art, you have a lot of outlets. Some
Outlet.
people like
Yes, that's so true.
so some of them get into comics, some of them like painting, so they get into painting. Muni paints beaches, and that'll be an interesting thing, and things that inspires her. So there are a lot of outlets, and then art is not just the sake of art, painting and creating a visual thing. Art can go into animation, movies, baking. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is a baker. I also consider sports as
Yum.
an art, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that you can generalize in the field of art, where you got to be open to it, and you develop that love for it. And of course, the practical aspects, of course, you have to know your practicalities. You don't need to be more you need to stop thinking things ideologically, and you need to be more practical also. Have a balance of
Yeah,
both.
and all that is so true. And also, like, how would you know if you like to do this, certain art, if you haven't tried it? And if
Exactly.
you, for example, if you wanted to try writing and you don't know where to start, you don't even know if you like writing, just, start writing about your thoughts, like
Mm,
even simple words. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect,
mm.
on your first try.
Uh, So yeah, that was an amazing art talk segment. I really love this art talk segment. We've
I
deviated a
love
lot.
your story.
We've
I love your
deviated a lot.
art school story. It was so fun.
uh,
Oh
if
my
anyone
goodness, Rajiv.
wants to connect with you via social media, how do they find you on social media?
Yes, hello. I'm inviting everyone to please follow my social media. I am everywhere. My social media is Muni with Muni. I am on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Twitter, TikTok, and Kumu. I'm not lying when I say I'm on everywhere.
Mm.
And also, if you like my episodes, please share them with the people you love.
Guys, you gotta tune in and be amazed. Amazing voice, amazing personality, a very lovable, admirable character. thank you, Muni Muni, for being a part of my show, and I'm hoping to hear from you soon. I'm looking to expand conversations as well, and with the next coming season soon, coming soon. And thank you again for being a part of the Rajiv show.
Thank you so much for having me, Rajiv. Love, love. Keep inspiring. I look forward to our next guesting or to our next episode. Love that.
Awesome. Thank you. And cheers to those who are listening. Cheers and stay safe.